Is a will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again. Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.
Big Sky Breakdown, proudly presented by the Bobcat Collective at Montana State. The Bobcat Collective is the NIL collective that serves Montana State University student athletes. The collective is partnered with Montana State to connect fans, alumni, businesses, and local nonprofits with Montana State student athletes. Opportunities through the collective allow student athletes to earn compensation while serving the greater Montana State University community. Sign up now for memberships and enjoy automatic entry into raffles for free tickets while supporting the bright minds at Montana State. They have multiple different membership tiers, and you can also be a one-time supporter, and you can also business partner or corporate supporter. Visit bobcatcollective.com for more. Well, it feels like the holidays around here. Riding with Ryder back for another week, but it's rivalry week. We're not riding with him, though. We're flying with him today. He's on his way to Nashville, so that's pretty fun. Mikey, thanks for being here, man. How you doing?
Yeah, doing great, man. Thanks for having me. Big week, man. Always fun to join you every single week, but this one's got a little extra juice to it.
Well, before we start rolling on these matchups and all the dynamics and memories and all that stuff, I want to ask you, just so I don't forget, we're doing a senior profile on Trevin Gradney, who is from Billings West. Coached him there. That's your alma mater as well. So just take us through from your perspective, a guy that saw him and worked with him in high school and saw his potential to what he's become now. You know, he was an All-American last year.
Yeah. I'll start by just saying how proud I am of Trevin. I had the pleasure of coaching him for a couple years, and I'll never forget first seeing him in the West High gym. We do some throwing sessions and stuff on Sunday. I was probably a year, maybe 2 years removed from coaching at MSU, and so getting back into the gym was just fun, and you didn't know what kind of athletes you're going to work with. That's just kind of how it is. But he showed up at the gym, and he had long levers. You can still see that with him. Long arms, long legs, very gifted athletically. But I do remember the head coach at the time saying, "Hey, he's got a bunch of ability, but he thinks he's a baseball player." I said, "Oh, okay." So they said, "Oh yeah, by the way, his dad played for the Cat." I said, "Oh, well, shoot, that's you got good pedigree, excited to work with him, and he had some stuff to him. I mean, physically, feet and hips, really good ball skills, and I just remember having a conversation with him. And this is no knock on any baseball players for those that are listening to this, but I told him, I said, "Look, man, you can go and have a stellar baseball career and get on a travel team and bounce around, and I kind of made a passing comment, say and finish and go to school at Miles City Community College. There's nothing wrong for those people that want to do that. But I was honest with them. I'm like, I think you can really be a good football player. You've got long arms. You run well. You are what people look for." I thought he'd eventually transition to safety. Full transparency. I thought he was going to be, he was a corner for me at West, and really coachable, really tough, really physical. So fun to see him develop. And those guys have done a really good job developing him there in Missoula. I would be a liar if I told you I wasn't disappointed when he committed to the Grizz over the Cats. I was coaching at the time, and I was like, "Hey, not going to steer you one way or the other. Go where you wanted." And he's landed really well there. He's been really well developed. And to see him wear the 37 jersey, that's so cool, man. For a guy that I know every year they try to out-recruit him. That's just what all coaches do, but they try to find better, and they bring in a Justin Ford, and they bring in different guys that have been really productive. But to see him have the year he did last year, an All-American season, turn around this year, wear the 37, legacy jersey, and doing what he's doing, it's been fun to see. So proud of Trevin. It was a joy to coach him. It's guys like that make it so fun, especially on the high school level, that are coachable, but boy, they got ability, and he has them both. So it's really been fun seeing him develop.
I think that just watching him too, I think that it's so funny because a lot of times guys like him that are sort of developmental type of corners, the tackling's the part you have to teach them. that was like the part he had down pretty well. I mean, he was like an all-league special teams player 2 years in a row before, and I think they thought he was going to be a safety too. And then they tried him at corner, and
Yep.
they're like, "Oh, this guy can cover our receivers." Okay, so but
Yeah.
being a willing tackler, I think, is the sort of his like ticket to ride, right? That's like the thing that got him an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's the other thing people don't know is that he wrestled. So he wrestled
Oh,
growing up. So you watch him tackle. Um, you watch him, track the football, right? So baseball kind of plays, and this is why my selling point for listeners to be a multi-sport athlete, at least early on in life, right? He was a guy that played baseball, can track football, wrestled, and he can show in his tackling ability, and then gave up baseball. And I told him, I said, you need to run track. I know you love baseball, but you need to go and run track. That's how you get faster as you run. And he's a state champion, open 400 meter runner. So like, guy can run, track the football, can tackle, and he's a coachable, smart kid. And it's just you put that all together, and you can see why he's been so successful.
any other kids that you coached in this current rivalry game this week?
Oh gosh, Taco and
Taco
Katie.
Dowler, yep. Caden Dowler, yep.
Yeah, yeah, both of those guys. Oh man, and they were a joy to coach. On the same team, Max Murphy, right, and Neil
Oh,
Daly didn't coach those guys, both of them,
right.
because they were at linebacker, but got a chance to interact with them. Both great kids. Gosh, on the Grizzly side, I don't believe so. I think I had some interactions. Coach with Bergen's dad, so I know Simon Bergen, and I played with his uncle DJ there at Billings West. So a little bit of overlap, and so Junior's done an incredible job. I love seeing the Billings guys be successful. It's important. It's fun to the recruiting piece. I know that's a big thing for Coach Hauk to try and get into Missoula. He had a stronghold on Missoula or on Billings West for a long time. And it seems like the Cats have done a really good job as of late. But that's just fun to the recruiting battles, and being a guy that coached and recruited in state. There's just a ton of pride. I was always trying to do the opposite when I was at MSU, recruiting Western Montana, trying to get kids that likely grew up wanting to wear the maroon and silver. And how do I get them into Bozeman? And you get guys like, Josh Hill and Logan Jones and Brady McChesney. And so there's a little bit extra pride. And I feel that. I see that with those kids that are in Missoula. You look at a Rylan Ort, you look at what Adam Jones is doing, the very interesting situation with I'm drawing a blank on the DN, Zach Cruz. All that to say, you got someone that grows up in Missoula and finds their way to Bozeman or vice versa. It adds a little different element to the whole thing, and that's what makes recruiting so special. That's what makes this rivalry so special.
Ride with Ryder, Big Sky Breakdown, as well as Skyline Sports YouTube channel. Mikey Ryder joining us. I do this every year. I break down all the Montana guys within the roster, and then I put together like a little analysis of which town has the most representatives, which classification, et cetera, et cetera. That's coming up. Montana made it. If it sounds simple, it's not. It takes me like 10 hours to do this.
I bet it does, man. Good job.
To do all this stuff. But this is fun. I just pulled out my notebook because I did all the tallies yesterday. And little bragging rights here for some of the towns. So Billings, your hometown, has 13 representatives in the game. So that's cool. 8 on the Cat side and 5 on the Grizz side. Bozeman, 14 representatives on the Cat side alone, and then another 5 for the Grizz. So 19 from Bozeman, which is pretty impressive. And then Missoula has 6 for the Cats and another 9 for the Grizz, so 15. So you got 19, 15, and 13 for the 3 biggest towns. But that Bozeman number is striking, man. 20 kids, 20 out of the 96 kids are from Bozeman. That's a lot.
It tells you a lot about the quality of football, and it shows in the high school dominance, right? What Bozeman High has done year in and year out. Now you throw in Gallatin, who had an incredible year, and they put out some players as of late. So kudos to Bozeman and the quality of football. I think give credit where credit's due to those high school coaches. I mean, they've developed kids. Some of it's kind of where the sperm met the egg at sometimes, with some genetics, but at the same time, it's like give credit where credit's due. Those coaches are developing high school kids and getting them ready to play at each respective university. And when they get to, go against each other here in a rivalry like this, it just makes it that much more fun. I think there's something so unique about growing up in Missoula or growing up in Bozeman, and I didn't either, but to switch sides of the rivalry. Like I read an article this morning, something came through about Brock Hoyle, the Bozeman guy that I didn't even I coached against him, didn't even play against him, but I'm like, how I can't even imagine. I can't imagine, or like Andrew Schmidt back in the day, like those guys that literally grow up in Bozeman and go to the other side, and the disdain that they have for their respective side. It's crazy. Well, now you flip it this year with Ort and Adam Jones, and I mean, you look at a young redshirt guy on special teams like a JJ Dolan, right? Boy, dad plays for the Grizz, grows up in Missoula, goes to the other side of the rivalry, and it adds so much to it. And so again, this is what makes this the greatest rivalry in FCS. There's no question in my mind. I know there's older ones with Harbor Jail and all the others, but all in all, man, there's not a better rivalry in FCS. It's one of the most hatred type rivalries in all of college football. And so really cool that we get to have a front row seat to it. And I was really, really grateful that I got to play in it and coach in it.
When it comes to your perspective on the prep for this, there seems like there's been so many different theories around this, right? Like Kane and I used to always talk about how like they were thinking about the Grizz every second of every day because he was trying to break the streak, right? So him and Lule, it's all Grizz all the time, no matter who you're playing, and and you're building up towards that game. And you played in part for Kramer and part for Ash, and those two guys definitely different theories on it. And then you coached under Rob, but also then Choate had a completely different. I mean, Choate was, every day of the week you got a guest speaker. You are emphasizing this to the maximum. This is the most important game you will ever play, even if you play in the Super Bowl, is what he tried to spin it as. And then Vegan this week, he says, hey, I understand this is the most important game on the schedule to everybody in the state. There's no question about it. But what we want to do is we want to play to our standard that we've played to all year long. That's where we want to be at. And so there's just different varying ways of doing it. What do you think? Is there a more effective or less effective way?
I think it's what's best for your team. I think it takes the personality of your coach. But I will tell you that I appreciate what Vegan is doing. There's a workmanship mentality that you create along the way, and this begins to be part of the process. It's not another game, so it's not. You can't say that. I don't think Vegan would ever say that either. But I do like his take on here's a standard of football that we're going to play, and this is our expectation in the 1-0 mentality. And the kids know what's at stake. Like when the whistle blows, there is some extra oomph to this game. I don't know. Does it give you a little bit extra in the preparation? That's fine. Do you watch a little bit extra film? Sure. But I've also been on the other side, Colter, where like it just was talked about so much. And we had a bye before our game in 2010, I remember, and it was just talking. It almost added more pressure to it instead of, I like Vegan's approach personally. This is my take of like, we're just going to play to our standard. Our standard, it was the same in spring ball. It was the same in, week 1 versus New Mexico, and it's the same now. Now, hopefully we've gotten better and better, but this is the standard and the set of expectations that we have. By the way, the other person on the other side, it happens to be a rivalry game. Do you think there's not going to be a little bit of extra juice? Of course, man. These kids have got heartbeats, right? Like they understand what's at stake. But when the standard becomes the focus and your standard is really, really high, like it is at Vegans, I just think it takes care of itself because it can become distracting if it's too much. And I just remember feeling that where it was a lot. It was a lot. And I remember opening kick 2000 or opening series 2010 in Missoula, tons at stake, bye week before that game. And we go down to score. We're up 7-0. And then the first play from scrimmage on defense, Chase Reynolds, pin and pull. One of our guys rips a gap, 65 yards for a touchdown, right? And just the balloon, it popped, right? And we handled it. But like, boy, that was a lot. That was a lot to feel. It was a lot to like let go of and just like get yourself to settle in. And you have to embrace those moments. But I think there can be a better way to like, that was just maybe me too, putting so much pressure on it. I mean, I was 0-3 against the Grizzlies up to that point. And so there was a lot to that. Big Sky Conference Championship on the line. And so I know long-winded answer, Colter. I think there's different ways to skin the cat. I sure appreciate Vegan's approach to saying this is our standard,
Yeah.
and they're in our way. And so we're going to take a little bit of extra juice to them. I appreciate that perspective.
I think that they also have this, it's not an advantage, but they have this experience of they've been able to redefine what their Montana State has been able to redefine what their standard is because of who they've lost to over the last 4 years. Like that's it. Like they've seen the elephant. Like they lost to North Dakota State 3 times. They lost to South Dakota State twice. They lost to Montana and Missoula twice. Like that they know exactly. So if you practice to a standard, you just make the standard same, right? Like, hey, here's the 3 best teams in the country. Let's practice like we're going to beat all 3 of them. And then if it happens to be a bunch of Montana guys on the other side, great. But, let's practice like this all the time. And I think just having seen that and gone through the trials and tribulations, I think that really helps this Montana State team.
Yeah. And so I guess I turn around and ask you, when they were looking at the measuring stick against these teams, where were they trying to make up the gap?
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of it is mental, and Brody Grebe and I have talked about this a lot. He said last year they just got out over their skis. Like 2 years ago, he said, hey, we have the discipline and the deliberate nature of marching toward our goal, and we just happened to run into South Dakota State, the best team in the last 15 years. One of the best teams ever in the FCS and in Brookings, and we lost. Okay, that is what it is. And that was when they were all sophomores. But he said last year, hey, we got ahead of ourselves. Like we almost beat South Dakota State, and then we just booked the ticket to Frisco. We forgot we had to go play at Idaho and play at Montana and all this stuff. Yep. And he said it really thwarted us. So I think that's part of it. I also think that one of the biggest keys in sports, period, pro sports, college sports, high school sports, is continuity within the scope of your organization. And I do think that if you have a coach like Brent Vigen, you need to have other people on the staff that are like Brent Vigen. I think that when Vigen first got to Montana State, I think Taylor Housewright was a really nice yin to Vigen's yang, because Housewright's brash, he's cocky, he'll run the trick play. You get all these headlines for scoring all these points. But then as it kept going along, they're just so completely opposed to each other just in terms of personality. And same thing with Willie Matt Garza. Like he's kind of like this mad scientist, kind of aloof in the way that he operates. Now I think Vigen has perfect coordinators for him. Tyler Walker, just a no BS guy. Bobby Daly, Bobby, he's just as driven as it gets, man. This guy watches film for 10 hours a day, I think. So
yeah,
I think that the continuity helps. And then I also think that they thought they had this necessity to have a 2-quarterback system because they needed 2 guys to be available because Tommy would always get hurt.
Yeah.
Not having another quarterback has made Tommy understand that his best ability is availability, and also that he doesn't have to win the game by himself all the time. And also he's not looking over his shoulder. So now he's in the flow, and that the quarterback play has been the thing that's just accelerated them to the absolute maximum. And now here they are. Look at like what does South Dakota State, North Dakota State have over everybody? Best offensive line in the country, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Well, now Montana State has exactly that. So
and that was giving my point, Colter. Like when you boil it all down, I think those are all such good points. But when they were measuring themselves against those other teams, it had to do with what was going on in the trenches. And I think Montana State has made up that ground where I don't offensive and defensive line. Even 2 years ago in Brookings, there were some discrepancies there still, albeit very strong on the offensive line. It's continuing to get better, but I do feel like this year in particular, where the offensive line is and the defensive lines are deep and they're physical. And that is going to be the difference on Saturday. And we're going to be able to see pretty quickly. In this game, you see quickly. Now, there's some things that happen in the game, and there'll be, special teams that are always a factor. But, we'll see quickly as far as the offensive line and the defensive lines. What does that look like after, in the middle of the second quarter? What does that look like? And I think that's you look back to the 2000s, and I mid 2000s when was so good. Those offensive lines were, those guys. You can do whatever you'd like on the outside. You can do that, but it boils down to what does the line of scrimmage look like?
Yeah,
and those guys, we had some really good players. We had some try-hard dudes, and they were really, really good and, solid players. But at the end of the day, their offensive line in Missoula was year in and year out. They were just so dominant. Those guys were great, man. Mariani and those cats. I mean, they were great. Cole Berquist and some of those guys were so good. And Rob Schulte, they were awesome. But boy, those offensive lines and those defensive lines sure helped.
I mean, when people ask, what's changed about Grizz football? I mean, you look at this Grizz team right now, they have as good offensive skill players as anybody in the country.
Yep.
I think they're going to finally go with Fife in this game. And he's a great quarterback, man. He has been this whole year. They've just been screwing around with the two. And I get it. Ayala has potential. And if you want to plan for the future, that's awesome. But if you want to win now, you got to go with the junior who's got the electric arm, not the freshman. That's just how it is. Either way, Junior Bergen is one of the best playmakers in the country. Keelan White's one of the steadiest receivers in the country. Cole Grossman is a, top level type of tight end. And they have 3 other tight ends that are really good as well. Gilman and Osmo are one of the best, 1-2 punches in the country at running back. Defensively, they have good corners. They have great safeties. What's the difference, man? The Grizz offensive line is only plus. It's not plus. It's not elite. It's not superior to the elite teams. It's only, better than all the rest of them. And the D-line and the front 7 or I guess the front 6 in their scheme, it's only average. And average gets you by against Eastern Washington and Weber State. It's just tough when you play the rest of them. So I agree. I think that's the one thing that has sort of regressed for Montana. When it comes to this matchup, though, what specifics are you looking at in terms of Montana versus Montana State on both sides of the ball?
Start with the defense on the Cat side. Just shaking off a little bit of what took place at those last 2 drives. I've been in that situation where you're like, boy, that was a really good game we put together. And, you limit a guy like Van Larison and you're feeling really good. And then 2 possessions can make you be like, wait a second. What just happened? Right. So they got to find a remedy, some of that. And,
part of it's, though, is just the onside kick, though, right? I mean,
which was unbelievable.
If somebody recovers an onside kick, you are going to be spun out because, it just never happens. You don't know how to prepare for that. I mean, I bet you that Brody Greavy's never played defense after somebody recovered an onside kick on him ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's both mentally, and then there's the field position and the whole thing, and then on, what's your defensive philosophy? I thought about that as it happened, and I'm like, okay, so Bobby Davey, what's your philosophy? They looked a little bit, softer, but credit to him. It's I don't know. I haven't really been in a situation. Maybe we should have heated them up, or we should have gone straight base defense. We're not playing around. We're going to go base defense and beat them like we have for, almost 4 straight quarters. But all that to say, I think, can the defense start fast? Get the taste out of their mouth from what just happened, because that is hey, well, look, you got the stop at the end of the game. That's all that matters. That's great. But there was the fact of boy, we let them come down and score, and then they got the onside kick, and then bam, they went down and scored again. Let's get a little bit of our mojo back. Start fast on defense. The linebacker position, how is that going to look against 2 quality backs? Neil Daly, he didn't play a whole lot in the second half. I didn't see Colter, so I'm obviously not privy to any injury stuff, but maybe he was fine. But Greavy was in there, and then obviously O'Reilly did a great job as well. But fast start from the defense, I think, is going to be a big key. The line of scrimmage, it seems so obvious, man. but it is true. We're going to see that pretty quickly. We saw it, whatever, 3 years ago in Bozeman, and it was very apparent. Like that run was not going to, like the Grizz were not going to stop the run of the Cats. It just wasn't going to happen. So we're going to see what that looks like, and we'll see it pretty quickly. And then special teams. I like to see, where the Grizz have been so successful on special teams. Bergen did bail them out. We had one return a couple weeks ago. He is just so electric when he's got the ball in his hands. But the field position, what does that look like? Can the punter step up in a big situation and flip the field when called to, make a field goal here and there, even if it's a 35 or, 38-yard chip shot? Those points count in rivalry games like this. And so, and the last thing is just who handles the emotion and the momentum swings, because you just got to settle yourself and handle your nerves. And we've seen that week in or year in and year out as of late, where that home team, that you're just a little more comfortable. There's a lot of pressure in this game, and when you're at home, you just feel at home. And we've seen it both from the Grizzlies, what they did, last year, and then 2 years or 3 years ago, 20-9. And so I think you got to settle in, and I think advantage to the home field team. If you're a betting person, you probably do that right now, because that's kind of what the rivalry's shown. It's been, even since 2006, Colter, which is wild to say. Since 1956, I saw that stat, 34-32. It's been an even rivalry, a lot at stake. I'm excited to see it.
No doubt. I mean, the Cats have won 6 out of 8, but the Grizz have won 2 out of 3. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways you can splice it. The home field part is such a fascinating dynamic of this to me, because there was actually a span where the road team had a lot of success. Like the Cats won in Missoula in 2010, 2012. The Grizz won in Bozeman in 2011 when the Cats were the number 1 team in the country. I mean, you saw Choate win in Missoula twice. You saw Bob Stitt win in Bozeman once. Like there's been a lot of not home field advantage, but the last 4 years it's been. So here's the average score, last 4 Cat-Griz games, 43-13 has been the average score in favor of the home.
Yeah.
So just absolute beatdowns, which you can say the home field advantage, but it also just doesn't make any sense, because neither team has been anything but good team coming into this. I mean, you're talking 2 of the 8 best teams in the country, both sides, 4 years in a row, and now here you go, probably 5 years in a row as well. So you expect maybe the home team to have an advantage, but I don't know about a 30-point advantage over a 4-year cycle.
I know. Yeah, I don't know. I think the other thing that I've been just kind of chewing on, you look at what we saw, and you and I were trading some text, but just what we saw last week in Missoula, and some of the strife there on the sideline, and the argument between, Fife and Coach Hauk, and then, cool to see him, give a hug and make up, and that, where do you land there? Because it can be a fortifying thing.
No doubt.
It can be. And so that could play in their hands. And look, the guy's capable, right?
For sure.
But it can also, those wheels can come off the track just as fast. And so that will be interesting to see how he handles that. Because he is going to get pressure out. I mean, again, I want to see, can Greavy, can those guys get some pressure on him early, or is he going to be in a groove and he catches fire? Because I think he's one of those streaky quarterbacks, which if you get him off the spot, now all of a sudden he's rushed, things aren't going well. Is there another explosion? They don't have another quarterback to go to. I don't think Ayat's going to be available. Maybe he is. Maybe they'll trot him out there here or there. But that dynamic in itself is something that's going to be interesting.
No doubt. And there's so many different ways you can go with it. But from an intangible standpoint, a part of me thinks that nobody's really ever barked back at Bobby Hauk before. And I think Coach Hauk didn't know what to do. And then he went nuclear, and then he went over and found him and was like, hey, man, it's all good. Like, and I don't know. You can read whatever you wanted to it. Hauk brought Fife to the post-game press conference, and they talked about it openly. And I thought that was completely not what I thought. I thought they would say, nope, he's not coming. He's in trouble. He's whatever. And nope. And they went up there and they talked about it. And they're like, yeah, man, we both got after each other. We were pissed at each other. And then we figured it out and we won. So I don't know. We'll see. We only got about 90 seconds left, but I'm just so interested to see if Montana can slow down Montana State's run game. It's been feast or famine in this matchup with the 3-3-5 against Montana State's gap scheme stuff. It's either been Cats run for 1 million or the Cats run for 60. So I don't know how that all works. this time around, but I do think that's probably the key matchup of the game to me.
Yep, absolutely. And again, going back to the trenches, who can handle what? Third downs are always a big teller in this. And then, like any football game, man, you got to hold on to the football. The turnover game, the field position, and ride the waves of emotion. Who can get their feet underneath them fast? Because you're going to take punches, and we've seen it the last handful of years where the team that has taken the punches, the last four have been the visiting team, and it hasn't gone well for the visiting team. And they haven't handled the punches well. And we'll see pretty quickly how those handle on both sides. Who can handle the punches and the waves of emotion in this game. And I'm looking forward to a good Saturday. It's not going to be negative, whatever, like it was 2 years ago in Bozeman. So that's a plus for all involved.
Mikey Ryder here on the Big Sky Breakdown and the Sky on Sports YouTube channel. We'll see you on Saturday, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Colter. Appreciate it.
Big Sky Breakdown, proudly presented by the Bobcat Collective at Montana State. The Bobcat Collective is the NIL collective that serves Montana State University student athletes. The collective is partnered with Montana State to connect fans, alumni, businesses, and local nonprofits with Montana State student athletes. Opportunities through the collective allow student athletes to earn compensation while serving the greater Montana State University community. Sign up now for memberships and enjoy automatic entry into raffles for free tickets while supporting the bright minds at Montana State. They have multiple different membership tiers, and you can also be a one-time supporter, and you can also business partner or corporate supporter. Visit bobcatcollective.com for more.